transformation, guided by experts from various modalities. I'm Christy, and I'm here with Jen, my co-host.
Hello, everyone. Today we have an incredible guest, Karen Turpin, an energy and psycho spiritual coach, soul purpose guide, multidimensional healer, and teacher. We are so excited to have Karen with us today.
Welcome, Karen.
Hi, thank you for having me.
You're very welcome. Karen, as someone who empowers spiritual women to become their best selves, can you tell us, have you had a spiritual awakening yourself before?
I've had many.
It's like the onion.
Yes, it is. And to be perfectly honest, I think this is one of the misconceptions, within our kind of industry, if you call it that, because people wait for the big one, right? In my experience, it doesn't always happen like that. And some of the big ones are not sustainable. So you might get like a rush of energy and wow, I've had this awakening. And then 5 minutes later, you're back in your normal life and it's all gone like a dream, right?
Yeah.
And so in my experience and for myself personally, it's a gradual awakening.
Yeah.
And more sustainable, I think, that way too.
Oh, absolutely. Would you say that your spiritual awakening was part of the catalyst for you getting to where you are today as an energy and psycho spiritual coach?
Yeah, definitely. So how it started for me, when I was about 14, I realized that I was astral traveling, like around the neighborhood at night and things like that. I was very interested in fact, I went to a careers session, at school, and because I'm ancient, right? So it's back in the day when you had like the index cards in a box, right? And you go in, you go, oh, I'd like to be a nurse, I'd like to be a doctor, and she'd pull out the card and it would give you your pathway for education.
Wow.
So when I walked in and said, I think I'd like to be an astrologer or a fortune teller, she's like, no, we haven't got one of those in this box, love. She said, look for another career.
Oh my gosh.
So I became a secretary. I went and worked in a bank, and then I was a legal secretary. But anyway, at 14, I met a girl who used to go to weekly seances. And even though I was like intrigued in this whole spiritual thing, like it scared me. I'm like, oh my God, I can't go to seances. You get bad spirits coming up.
Yeah.
Anyway, I kind of didn't know that stuff. So as I say, I did used to astral travel around, and I kind of did that on my own. I had no guidance. Nobody in my family was, awake to that stuff. And then I think probably the next layer was when I had my first child, but more so with my second child. So he'd be up at night, like in a dark room, soothing this baby, trying to get him back to sleep. And I realized I could see energy coming out of my hands in a dark room. And then I became aware of all these colors through his body and things like that. And I didn't have a context for that. I didn't know about that. So I just kind of went, oh, this is pretty cool. Spoke to a few people who also had no clue. And then a couple of years after that, I think I went to live in Singapore, and that really was my awakening from that point. But I've got to say, I'd only been living in Singapore a couple of years a couple of months, and my mum died. And really, probably that was the biggest catalyst, because I know death, it really blasts all of your chakras open. You're wide open. And that was my psychic abilities came in then. So I guess if you say, was it one spiritual awakening, that would have been the earliest and the biggest one. But there were layers, obviously, unfolding before.
Yeah, beautiful. So when you say you're a psycho spiritual coach, I love that terminology. I've never heard it before. Can you explain to us what psycho spiritual coaching is?
Yes. So I like many of us, I think, when we're into spiritual woo stuff, we don't want to go into the mental mind, because we're told that the mental mind is 3D. We don't want to go in 3D. We want 5D. We want all the woo, lovely, fluffy stuff. So I was one of those. And, you know, I wanted all the energy and the crystals and all the techniques and the grids and, you know, all of that stuff. And whilst I would say I was a very effective healer, I did notice that people weren't able to sustain the depth of healing long term. So, you know, you would clear something for a while, but then something would come back again. And or a limitation. I was beginning to notice that there was things they just couldn't get past. Anyway, how it happened is that I had been doing a heck of a lot of clearing of demonic entities and parasites and, you know, energy vampires and all of that stuff, like really what I call heavy duty clearing work. And I was a little bit burnt out, to be honest. And I just thought, you know, geez, I'm kind of over looking at people's alien abductions with them and things. It's like, it's got to be more, right? Anyway, I thought, right, you know, I'm going to step back. And I found this woman online, and the way that she spoke so inspirationally actually reminded me of myself. And I thought, wow, she sounds just like me. I've got to investigate this. So I went off and searched who she was and what she did. I ended up going to London to train with her for a month in hypnotherapy. And then I really got hooked into the psychological part and the understanding of the mind much more. And that led me down that path, which before, as I say, it was like 3D mental mind. No. But I understand it's much more than that. And so within 2 weeks of being qualified as a hypnotherapist, after thinking that I was just going to do nail biting and fear of dogs and have an easy life, my client came in for a lack of confidence and suddenly realized that she had this massive entity attached to her, and it had been there through lifetimes, because we're going in lifetimes. And I'm like, whoa, there's more to this. So then I kind of developed multidimensional hypnotherapy, because we're certainly not working just on this level now. The other thing is, though, that led me to the hypnotherapy is that I have worked with probably about 350 people now who were trying to come out of spiritual cults that they'd been kind of programmed into. So I could clear that energetically, because there's a lot of, you know, dark attachments and stuff from all of this. I could clear that, but I realized I couldn't get into their mind to really shift their mind. But then I realized it was subconscious programming. So that was what took me to the hypnotherapy as well. So combining all of that, psychological, spiritual, psycho-spiritual coaching. So we got a couple of levels covered there.
Beautiful. Jen, do you have a question?
Yeah. So your work, that's okay. Your work spans over around 25 years, right? And you've developed your own modality, which is called the multidimensional hypnotherapy. How did you actually create this power, this healing power technique? And what results have you witnessed through your practice?
Well, I think because I trained in hypnotherapy, so I had that technique, if you like. But then instead of, and I got to say, with that first client, I was challenged, because I'm like, oh, like, what am I? Am I a hypnotherapist, or am I going back into an energy healer? And in the end, I thought, well, you know, I have to embrace all of me. All of my gifts and talents have to come through into this. So being as I'm extremely psychic, I read energy very well. I can see where people have got attachments and implants and all of that. And I just thought, wow, okay, it's been brought to me in this way. I better just use what I've got within, right? Rather than try to put myself in a box. Because I can't do hypnotherapy for her lack of confidence and then say, oh, and by the way, you've got an entity, so come back and we'll do that on another day. It's like, well, okay, so she's come to me for everything that I have to offer. So I just combined all of me. I don't know if I could teach it. I actually probably could teach it, as long as the person was already psychic. I don't teach psychic development anymore.
Beautiful. I have I'm really curious about this multidimensional hypnotherapy. You're talking about like demonic entities and implants and like what, like, if we break that down to, is that like, because I I have a belief that everything is energy. Is this just stuck energy that has been around for eons on these people? Something that's attached? Like, how do you perceive demonic entities? Just like that's a big question.
Yeah, well, funnily enough, I've got a class coming up in a couple of days' time all about entities, possessions, thought forms, right? Because some people think they have entities and they're actual thought forms. And I didn't realize that until I understood more about how the mind works. So that was fascinating, because prior to that, I was like, oh, it's an entity. And it's like, oh, it's actually not. It's they're creating, you know. So that gave me a depth of understanding with that. So there's a whole world of different types, right? So there are people that, and this I got to say is people that dabble with things without realizing what they're dabbling with. So it can be things like ayahuasca's very popular these days, right? So if you are with someone, a shaman, supposedly, because they're not all shamans, even if they claim that they
some
are.
of them are charlatans.
Exactly. So if they are with someone who is not holding space correctly and has the ability to see what's coming into that space, when then with what ayahuasca, and actually pretty much I'd say all drugs, they're open, they don't know what's coming in. So and then we see people change, you know, when they start using psychedelics and drugs. And without doubt, some people do have amazing spiritual experiences. I'm not knocking all of it, but I think that if you're going to go down that path, you need to have a really strong spiritual practice already. You need to have done, I would say, a fair amount of your own shadow work before you go in, because if you've got a whole load of SHIT on the inside and you go into that experience, because law of attraction, right? Again,
emotions hold energy.
It's pulling it all right in, because it's a vibrational match. So if you're going in there because your whole world is a mess, you're probably going to find more mess.
Right.
You know? However, for the people that are working on themselves, doing the work, I believe that they can have some amazing spiritual awakenings and openings. So that would be one example of how these things come in. But it can come in many ways. So it can come in with abuse, you know, if you're in a narcissistic, abusive situation. Again, it's they can attach to you because they really kind of want to feed on the drama that's going on. You know, you see a lot with people that have addictions as well, you know, because a lot of these entities, they really love, they crave that kind of stuff. Some of them have come through generational, so we can see that they were there with past life and they come through. Others have got these ET kind of things attached to them because they've had or agreed to some kind of, you know, like in an alien abduction or something. Like it's a vast thing. Don't know if I completely answered your question.
I think you've done a very good job. I do sort of really resonate with the energy, like the energy levels. You know, when I felt into what people see as, to me, demonic energy, I think sometimes that's a thought creation. I believe that's a thought creation too, not all the time, but there's also, like you said, like if we're holding shame, which is a really low vibrational emotion, that can attract stuck, stagnant energy around us, and to me feel like an attachment. Maybe it is an attachment. I haven't had that experience yet, but the way you just described that sounds like, to me, that feels so true. And I can see the big pool, how there can be so many other varieties out there as well.
Yeah, and so of course another term that's fashionable these days is to be a starseed, right? And then you start researching into galactic wars and the starseed stuff, and it's like, oh, you know, I was on Tiamat and my parts are blown up all over the universe, and I have to claim my parts back, and then I'm being attacked because I'm here to hold light on the planet, and it's like, whoa, hold on, let's get grounded here a moment.
Right.
Because some of it is real. That's the point. I'm not poo-pooing the whole of it, but
No.
let's get grounded first.
Yeah. Yeah. I think, some of us, I say us because it's not like everyone, I agree. There's like, I think some hear that and create that story and visualize whatever they visualize, and to them it feels very true.
Exactly.
So yeah, I love that you're speaking to that, because I don't think that's spoken to enough. It's like, okay, she says she's a starseed, she must be a starseed, right?
Yeah, so again, the psychology comes into this, because when you understand how the mind works, right? If I say to you, don't think of a pink elephant, what's the first thing you visualize internally, right? A pink elephant. The mind is so suggestive.
Yeah.
And so, and then think of the movies you've been and watched, and your heart rate's up, and you're in an anxiety state, or you're bawling your eyes out because you're relating with what you're seeing on the screen, and in there, and you're in the whole feeling of it, right?
Yeah.
So when you're in a community, obviously the ascension communities do a lot of this kind of thing. You're talking about the star seeds and this ET and that ET. You're in it, and there's a lot of drama energy in that, and your body's responding. I mean, like literally, I talk about the starseed trauma and actually the starseed trap, because it is a consciousness trap there.
Yeah.
I'm a starseed. This happened to me, and this is why I can't function real well on this planet. But most of it is thought, suggestion.
Yeah. It's almost like a victim mentality, that sounds like.
I was just thinking that.
Yeah. I know, like in my past life, this current life, but it's a past version of myself, I was like, I lived such a chaotic and dramatic life, and that just doesn't exist in my reality anymore. But I understand now that I was so addicted to the chaos and the drama and the victimhood. I was getting so many dopamine hits when I was like in that chaotic state, that there was an addiction to the dopamine in all of that, and what I was gaining from that.
Yeah. And the thing is, again, what we don't like to look at much in spiritual circles is our childhood wounding, right?
Oh yeah.
And the point is that as a young child, we're wide open, of course, and whatever we experience in our young childhood up to about, well, I would say up to 12, but people say mostly up to 7. I'd say it's a bit older.
Yeah, definitely.
If you're living in that environment where there's arguments or an alcoholic parent, or you're not feeling safe, your whole body is wired to that fight, flight, and the drama.
Yeah.
So when you get a little bit older, like maybe you leave home and you're in your own apartment or whatever, and things start to calm down, your body goes, something must be wrong, because I'm not on alert anymore. So you rush out and you find the drama that makes you feel comfortable, because you're so used to living in that.
Yeah, we understand how to survive in that space, but we don't understand, like, consciously, we don't understand why we can't have the safety and security. But our egoic mind is like, we don't know we can survive over there. We know we can survive in the in this crappy space over here. So we're just going to sabotage until we keep coming back. Like I just the need to know how our brains function is so important to our growth, right?
Yeah.
I tuned into the collective yesterday. I noticed there was a bit of a pattern showing up in a lot of the conversations I was having. And I noticed at the moment there's like this, I haven't experienced this for a while, but there's a huge motherhood, like mother wound coming up, like an inner child mother wound coming up, right? Like it's so like obvious wherever I go, there's conversations about, and they're actually every single conversation's been with a woman reflecting on something that happened in her childhood and like really attached to this story. And I'm like, I started like questioning yesterday, where is this coming from? So there's like this collective healing that's sort of open to us at the moment with the mother. So yeah, the inner child work to me is, we are byproducts of our parents' programming, literally.
I was just seeing that one of your listeners has said here, it's not comfortable to deal with those wounds. I had to learn how to thrive, not just survive. Exactly. It's not comfortable to deal with those wounds, but when it's out, it's like, oh, so liberating, right?
Yeah, very liberating. Very, very.
So
And-
Karen, oh, sorry.
Oh no, that's right. And freeing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sorry, Jane. Sorry.
So as a light body technology specialist with direct communication to source and the founding races of this planet, can you actually explain how this is connected, enhances your healing and coaching abilities?
Yeah, well, I used to do a lot of work with starseed types, right? Because at that point, I'd realized the origins of myself and these abilities that I have to see the technology of the light body in a specific way. And the way that I was seeing it was I was able to see where there were breaks in the circuitry, and where what's known as negative alien implants were there and things like that, right? So I could see that whole technology. And so because I, like a lot of people, they're Pleiadian or they're from Sirius or Andromeda or whatever, and they're kind of pretty much tuned to that channel. It's a little bit like that's their language. But I have the ability to work with multiple ET kind of races, right? So when I look at the technology of the light body, which is very different than our kind of human energy field, it's a whole different technology that I see. I can talk all of that language. It's not like I'm just seeing the Pleiadian template or whatever. I can see all of that, and also have the understanding of how those races were here on the planet, through the last, 250,000 years. You know what I mean? So it's a bit random to explain that, but
It's just so intriguing though to be able to tap into that type of energy is amazing.
Yeah, so I had a conversation just yesterday with a girlfriend. We were talking about, is this a simulation that we're living in? Is this a projection? This kind of thing. And we started talking about computer games, and it made me laugh because I was talking earlier about using all of our gifts and talents, right? And so when you look back at everything you've done through your life, it's usually purposeful, right? You've been there and done that. And so in this conversation yesterday, I said, oh, look, I don't think I've ever told you this. Again, 14 seems to be my pivotal time, right? When I was 14, I had a job. And as I say, we're going back a long way now. I had a job after school and on Saturdays at the office next door to my dad's engineering factory. He used to build computer games. And this is a long time. We're probably talking Pac-Man, when you had the whole sign up and it would go ding, ding. And it would, like we're going back a long time, right?
Yeah.
But anyway, my job at 14 was to play this computer game until it glitched. And then he would show me how to go in the back end program to repair the program, to repair the glitch, and then I would play it again and make sure that all the different options of pathways and choices within that game ran clearly. Now, can you see the similarity between that and looking at the technology of the light body and seeing where the glitches are? It's like, wow, you couldn't write this stuff.
You can't. Like,
Awesome.
No.
And you're being shown that in a very basic, broken down way when you're 14. That's amazing.
Yeah.
So quantum vision, talking about light body and the quantum visioning process you've developed sounds so intriguing. Can you share more with us about how that works and how it would help individuals during their spiritual awakening journey?
Yeah, sure. So going back probably 10 years, 15 years, I used to do the Mind, Body, Spirit festivals around Australia. Actually, Christy, maybe that's where you saw
probably
me.
Where I saw it.
Yeah. So I always had my stand there, and I used to do readings and things on the stand. And people would always come in and say, oh, where will I be in 6 months or 2 years' time? And as a psychic, we can give them a pathway that we see, right?
Yeah.
You do it with astrology or tarot, whatever. You see that pathway. But very quickly, I realized I wasn't seeing just one pathway. I was seeing at least 4 pathways with each person.
Yeah.
And I realized as well that you can have this pathway and it'll take you there and your life will be fine. But if you just do a few, switches, you could have this potential timeline pathway,
Yeah.
and it's so much better,
Yeah.
and all of that. So that was the start of where that came in. And how it's beneficial is that many of us, we know we're meant to be doing what we're doing, but we can't see the bigger picture. So we're kind of heading off into the dark a little bit. And whilst I appreciate that you only really need to see 1 or 2 steps ahead, because psychically, when you tune in, spirit doesn't give you your whole life forever mapped out. It usually gives you a couple of paths. You might get a flash of something in the future and you go, wow, that's it. But the point is, we don't really know where we're headed. We're just trusting that we're going to get a couple of messages along the way and we'll be guided. The benefit with this quantum visioning is that I can show you where you will be in a couple of years' time. If you stay probably with the same mindset, doing the same kind of thing, same environment, that's where you'll end up. And I've got to say, because people are often scared, oh my God, I might see terrible things. I've never had a client see something terrible. Usually they go, yeah, that's okay. I'm happy with that,
Yeah.
And then I say, okay, let's have a look at your highest potential. So then we go into like a different timeline level. And then what they see there is really when they're bringing all their gifts and talents and they're really on their life purpose, doing their mission. And they go, wow, that's amazing. I want that. So then I work with them. And some people say, yep, okay, I know where I'm headed. That's fine. Other people say, I want that, but I don't know how to get there. And then they work with me in coaching or healing, and we pick up the pieces and continue to move them forward towards that vision. But to some people, all they need is the vision, and they go, okay, now I know what I'm heading towards.
Yeah.
And it's like that. And I always say to them, all the decisions that you make in life and business, run it by that vision and say, okay, how does that align into that so that you can keep on the right path? And as you know, we sometimes detour and we go around the houses, and it's okay. We usually get back on the right path in the end, but there's a quicker route if we know where we're headed.
Yeah, I love that. I think, the visioning, that quantum, I'm starting to see that what I do is quantum work. I've got all this stuff about quantum in front of me right now. And the stuff that I do is like, I don't really have a name for it. I've just been, everything I do, it's just come through me and I've been guided to it.
Yeah.
And it sounds like quantum visioning. And what I see as well, and the way I understand, and you would understand this too, the way the brain works is our mind can't tell the difference between reality and make-believe.
Yeah.
So if we're envisioning this and bringing our 5 senses into that vision, we're actually telling our brain that it's safe to go to this space and starting to break down the barriers. Would you say that to be true?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah, beautiful. Beautiful.
So we know that you mostly work with spiritual women.
Yeah.
What are some common challenges that they face on their journey, and how do you guide them towards living their authentic lives and with empowerment?
Well, I discovered that our biggest problems, in a sense, is that we lack self-worth, we lack self-belief, we don't trust ourselves, we don't actually love ourselves. So I call these pillars of transformation required for our empowerment. So I work with those things. So I created 4 courses that specifically address those things. It involves energy clearing. It involves, like meditation and activation processes, as well as the hypnotherapy audios, which actually program their mind, for example, to feel worthy, to believe in themselves, because then I'm using the mind to really, program them to believe in themselves, right? So those are the kind of things, and lack of self-trust. So people say, oh yeah, I'm quite intuitive. Yeah, you're intuitive for other people, but do you follow your inner guidance, or do you double guess, or do you doubt, or do you procrastinate? So we work on things like that. So it's fair to say that most of the women that come to me are kind of entrepreneurial, but there's levels of that. So, you could just, do psychic readings at the local health food store on a Saturday morning, and that could be it. But you may aspire to do more, but you can't quite do more because you've got all these blocks and limitations in you. So it could be someone that says, oh, well, I'm a healer, but I just want to take it bigger. But everything inside of me is like, and this is where the past life comes in, right? I have a fear of being seen. Like, I was burnt, right? I was a witch. They hunted me down, and I can't bear to be seen in this life, So we look at those wounds. So we might go back and find out why they can't show up on social media and speak their truth. What's holding them back from speaking up? So again, we're looking at where they got stuck, where they got blocked, and we're clearing that and empowering them to move forward. But it's not just, women, entrepreneurial women, because this is common themes throughout our whole life, So it's whatever you want to do in life, your relationships, because everything comes down to relationships, I have women that have been coming to my meditation classes, for example, and they're scared to tell their husband and family that they're coming to meditation in case they think it's a bit weird. They tell them they go to a bloody book club or something each week, and it's like, oh, I could never tell anyone I'm meditating. It's like, wow, where does that fear come from? So it's clearing all that fear so that they can say, I get benefit from my weekly meditation or whatever. All levels, not just for women in business, but
I love it. So it's such an intriguing and complex space, this spiritual world, right? Especially when we're just sort of touching our toe in the water. So just going back, I just want to revisit back to so you did Mind, Body and Spirit Festival, and I'm assuming other festivals around, like you were a motivational speaker, you conducted mass healings and activations. Can you share like a memorable experience or of transformation that may have occurred during one of these events?
Off the top of my head, I'm not thinking of any, funnily enough, because I'm kind of putting my mind into, okay, let me think of a mass healing where someone had a real spontaneous thing. I can't think of anyone that came up immediately after the event and said, wow, this has happened. What I can share with you, though, is that I tend to have a good client retention, let's say, as a business term, right? So a lot of my clients have been with me for 15 years, 20 years, that kind of thing. And they come back and they say, oh, you did a healing for me, I don't know, long time ago, 15 years ago, and I really struggled to accept what was going on, but now I realized that was the turning point for me, that kind of thing. So and also what's been funny is some of the things that I spoke about in some of my teaching, people were like, no, she can't be right, that can't be happening. And then they'll come back and go, oh my God, you were so right, So it's made an impact. And I think you'll probably agree that you don't always get an immediate comeback where someone says, oh, you've healed me or whatever. But you do see it happening. There was a time I did a session with a lady who came in, and I said to her, look, how's your health? And she's like, oh, a few aches and pains, and it's kind of all right, but I really want to deal with this relationship thing. So we did the healing session around that, and I said to her, look, I'm kind of worried there's something going on around gallbladder, stomach. There's something really not happy in there. I said, you will go to the doctor, won't you? And she's like, yeah, I'll make an appointment. I'm like, could you go on the way home? Because I think it's really urgent. And she's like, oh, really? I'm like, yeah, don't delay this one. Anyway, she went to the doctor on the way home, got rushed in and had her gallbladder removed that night.
Wow.
So, there are these things that happen just spontaneously, and you go, wow, and I can't really take the credit for that. There's something bigger going on here, right?
I think Cray has got
I didn't know mass
Crying.
healings were a thing. Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
It's just energy, isn't it? Like, really, in the grand scheme of things, it's just energy and people being receptive to that and being open. And this is more like in like the festival.
Yeah.
You've got your big stage at the front and people come and see the
Yeah, so
guests.
what I used to do, I did the Conscious Living Expo in Perth one time. That was a bit of a hoot because, you know, you kind of plan what you're going to talk about when you're doing these events. So I was in a room and there was, I think probably there's about 350 people, 300 people in the room. And I started to talk, and this is going back a long time. So I was talking about the upcoming 2012, you know, end of time, Mayan calendar vibe. Right? So I started to talk about that. And, you know, I'm very open to answering people's questions if I can, things like that. So I'm like, any questions as I go along, just let me know. I want you to really understand where we're going. So all these questions started coming up. We went way down the ET, you know, alien invasion pathway, had no idea we were going there. And I kind of looked at my notes and I'm like, well, we can either carry on with this or I can just answer your questions. And they're like, can you answer our questions? So completely went off track. But anyway, we got to the end and I said, right, we're going to do this healing session now. And honestly, the energy in that room was just amazing. It was electric and everybody, you know, many people were crying and people were shaking and they were like, wow, that was so amazing. I don't know what the outcome after that was, but I know in the moment that it was so powerful. It was amazing. And, you know, I think one of the mistakes is, you know, if I were to get in my ego and say, wow, I'm so amazing. It's not me. It's like connection. Everything aligns to bring these things, you know.
Yeah. I want to speak about your course, Power and Potential, that's starting on the 17th of August.
Yes.
Which sounds like such a wonderful opportunity for growth. What can participants expect from this course and how will it support them in their self-discovery and spiritual evolution?
Yeah, so as I said, I've got 4 courses that address these pillars, right? But this course specifically is about self-trust. So as I mentioned, you know, we say, oh yeah, I'm very intuitive, but I never follow it, right? Well, why? So why do you not follow that? So we're going to explore why you can't trust yourself. What happened? And first of all, identify, do you trust yourself? You know, because a lot of us think we do. Oh, actually, when you start looking through the questions, you know, you go, wow, actually, well, maybe I don't, because I double guess myself all the time, or, you know, all these kind of things. So we're going to be looking at self-trust, why you don't trust yourself. And that's not just with your intuition, it's any decision that you need to make in life. Do you trust yourself to, enter a relationship with the right person?
Yeah.
Trust yourself to choose the right job, to make a move when you need to, you know. You may have an inner knowing that you need to change your diet. Do you trust yourself that there's a reason you're getting that, you know? So all levels of trust. So we look at where your trust got broken down. And then again, that's interesting because that usually happens somewhere in childhood when, you know, we are taught to believe that what we think doesn't matter and that we are wrong and that this is the way it needs to be done and you are wrong, you know, all of this. So we look at all of that. But in this course, Power and Potential, I'm talking very energetically about how your energy works. I look at the law of attraction, which is a funny one because I've been around, you know, forever. I was well into energy stuff when The Secret came out in 2006. And I was already in starseed stuff by then. So I'm like, law of attraction, oh, that's a whole load of BS. It's rubbish, right? But I know now it's not, because I know it's all just vibrational, but it actually wasn't explained real well in that first back then. But what people don't realize about the law of attraction, of course, it's always working. But if you're holding subconscious limited beliefs and a lot of negativity, that's probably overriding any of your positive aspirations.
The conscious thought.
Exactly. So like people say, oh, you know, I am a millionaire. You know, it's an affirmation. I am a millionaire. Well, everything in your body is going, no, you're not, love. You can
Yeah.
hardly pay your bills. So that immediately overrides that, drops you down into a negative state.
Mm-hmm.
So I talk in there about David Hawkins' scale of consciousness as well. Those different
Yes.
levels, right? When we're in that shame and guilt and fear and helpless, hopeless, real low vibration. When someone who is in a hopeless state because of what life has dealt them, you know, if they start saying, you know, I'm really successful in my business, well, you're not. There's such almost polar opposites, right? So in that understanding of the scale of consciousness, what we have to do is start stepping up, like not go, you can't do 0 to hero, you know, anything on social media that says, come and join me, I'll take you from 0 to hero. It don't work like that. They probably got 20 years of building to that point first, you know, so.
Totally.
Yeah. So many of our listeners are women who are experiencing a spiritual awakening. What advice do you have for them, and when it comes to trying to understand the changes that are happening within and around them?
Can you give me a specific example?
Like
just they're awakening and everyone is not. Is that kind of what you mean?
Yeah, in the sense of like how to, like, what advice do you have for them going through their awakening, and
just to understand what's happening around them.
Yeah, well,
and within them.
And within them, I know. So we get a lot of physical things happening within us too as we start to awaken, bringing higher frequencies in. We shift out old cellular debris, you know, all of that stuff. I think the thing is that there's an expression to be in this world but not of it, and this is kind of a change that we're going through. So if you think of the world, the planet, and most of its people as being 3D, right, they're really working from their lower 3 chakras, if you want to talk about it in that way. So they're looking for their survival base chakra. They're looking for, you know, like lust and greed and sex, sacral chakra. They're looking at power and money and what can I acquire, which is their sacral solar plexus chakra, lower 3 chakras. As we begin to wake up, we move up the levels. So we first of all go into the heart. And this is when you see everyone, I'm loving everybody, and I'm just like so generous and love, 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 you know. And then you get women that, not women, everyone. I work mostly with women.
So do we.
Who start to speak their truth, right?
Yeah.
The point is, and this I do cover in my course, Power and Potential, the masculine and feminine. They say, I'm empowering my feminine, so I'm speaking up. What people don't realize is that there is a distorted masculine and feminine and a divine masculine and feminine. So when they start speaking their truth, it comes out very forcefully, often very negatively, and that's the toxic mother wound that you're talking about. So they're expressing, but they haven't cleared the lower chakras of all of the stuff, so they're not speaking from an aligned place. It's all of that built up stuff that blasts out.
Would you say that that's them, like, when, because I witnessed this too, because there's like that whole pendulum swing from not speaking to like voraciously spitting acid, and it's almost like a grab for power, which is those lower chakras, right? It's kind of like I see that often.
And then because the next kind of triad of chakras is the heart, the throat, the third eye. So that's when the psychic stuff starts to come in, right? So they go, wow, I'm psychic, and they kind of run around doing psychic readings for everyone, but it's not refined, right? Because they still have got all of this garbage coming up. And this is the type of psychics that you see, like, with very negative doom and gloom messages about their client or about the world or about what's about to happen. All of that we can see is unhealed stuff that's coming up and through.
Yeah.
Well, we can clear that and we can move into the divine masculine and feminine, you know, with a bit of work, right?
Yeah, definitely. I think it's really important, because I teach, I am a psychic development coach. That's what I mainly do. And one thing that I teach is coming into energetic integrity and coming from that space. And we do sort of move through those chakras and the emotions. And, as we're doing the work, we're working directly with spirit, and like it sends this ripple effect out into our everyday life. And it's interesting, the journey. I'm actually more humbled by the journey that I witness people go on to come into their power in a beautiful and integral way throughout the journey. I think that's a really important piece, because you're right, there's a lot of psychics out there that are doom and gloom. And I have had this conversation with people like, oh my God, this person's going to die. I'm like, you can't actually say like that your mum's good. Like, they're like, I don't want to be like a gatekeeper. I don't want to withhold information. Like, you can just ask for spirit to deliver that message in a different way. This has been my experience. And
that's a great point. So when I used to do the readings at the MBS, for example, sometimes I would get a message come through or knowing, and it's not a good message. For example, your marriage is about to end, or something, right? Because this is a classic one. The women come in and say, is my husband having an affair?
Yeah.
So sometimes you get that, get that, oh my God, he really is.
Yeah.
And you think, I can't deliver this. So
I don't think we can. I think that's out of integrity.
I agree. So I would say to spirit, okay, you're giving me this, and this happens in a moment, right? It's not a big conversation with spirit.
No.
So you kind of say to spirit, okay, you've given me this information. I need to know that.
Yeah.
It's not to deliver it to the lady. But why are you telling me that? There's a reason that you're telling me that. So how can I help her? Okay, let's empower her to be strong then. So we give her the empowerment to be strong, to build her up, to know that, it's going to be okay, kind of thing. Whatever life dishes at you, I'm getting a message from spirit that, you're a very strong woman, and whatever life hands to you, spirit is saying, you will be fine. You will rise above this, and your life will be even better afterwards. And she might say, well, is there a specific thing? And then I would say, well, look, spirit is just saying that, you need to know how strong you really are. Then she walks away going, I'm strong. I can do this. Rather than a crumbled heap, falling around,
instilling more fear inside of them. I had,
and by the way, sorry to interrupt you, just to finish that, that's not lying.
No, it's not.
That's not lying to the person. That is supporting them. It is empowering them.
Yes, absolutely. Because we don't want them going into a fear state, because it can create so much. You don't know what else you're creating from that.
Okay, so can I give an example? I had a lady come to me for a healing session, and I picked up something in the gut. I was doing a bit of medical intuition at that point, clearly. It comes through now and again. So I said to her, look, something's going on with the gut. You need to work on healing your gut. And she's like, she was a runner, actually, and she had kind of chronic fatigue. So I said, like, if you work on the gut, you strengthen gut, you do some detox, you're going to be fine. There's some kind of parasites or bacteria or something weird going on there, but, it's okay. And we did the rest of the session. And I like to always check up on my clients a couple of days later. How you going after the session? Anything come up that you want to talk to me about? Anyway, she ghosted me for 3 weeks. Then she came back and she was screaming down the phone at me saying, you had no right to tell me I had stomach cancer and all of that. I'm like, no, I'm sorry, I'm not accepting that. I did not tell you you had stomach cancer. I said, you've got something going on in the gut. Go and see a naturopath, get it sorted. Anyway, she wasn't happy. I couldn't accept that I had said that, because I would never say that to someone. Anyway, by the by, about 2 years later, I was having my hair done locally, and the girl said, oh, blah, blah, blah came in. She's just won some marathon run or whatever. You know her, don't you? And I'm like, yeah, I think I did know her. I knew her from years ago. I said, she wasn't very well. She said, no, she wasn't. She was so exhausted. They found out she had some really bad bacteria in her gut. Once it was healed, she was back to running. And I thought, there
you go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You got to trust what comes through, you know?
Absolutely. I'll share this experience because I think this is really powerful too. And that was, I received this download that the woman that I was reading for, that her mum was going to die soon.
Mm.
And I was like, I had that moment with, I cannot deliver that. Like, what is the intention behind you sharing that with me? What does she need to know that will serve her in her absolute highest good? And the message I delivered to her was, you need to pick the phone up and call your mum, and you need to tell her that you love her.
Yeah.
And I always get teary when I share this. It's actually a really powerful lesson for me, actually.
Yeah.
And I said, because this has been going on for too long. You just need to bury the hatchet. She messaged me a week later, and she said, Christy, I have to thank you for telling me to pick the phone up. I got off our call and I literally picked the phone straight up, called my mum. I told her that I loved her, and she passed away the next day.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
So I get emotional.
Yeah, well, it's emotional. That's,
yeah.
We have to deliver the messages carefully.
Yeah, absolutely. And she said, the most potent part, and this is where I understood why I needed to deliver that message. She said, if you had not have told me to pick the phone up, she would have passed away.
Yeah.
And I would have had to carry that burden for the rest of my life.
Yeah. Yeah.
At least I got to say that I love her.
Yeah.
And our last words weren't hatred towards each other.
Beautiful.
So it's very important that we tune into the intention and what will serve them to the highest purpose. We don't have to deliver everything that comes through.
That's right. I was just reading there, Andrew was saying, am I weird being a male and listening and learning?
Definitely not.
Definitely there's more women, I think, within this arena, if you like to call it that. But there are a lot of males as well.
Yeah,
my
absolutely.
husband, we're not married. I just call him my husband because it's easier. But,
easier.
Yeah, we've been together a long time now, kind of 14 years. But when I met him, he was the only person that I'd ever met that meditated as much as me. And I'm like, wow. That's cool. Because you don't always find that so often.
No.
But there are a lot of males around. I don't have that many male clients, but the ones that I do are very awake, switched on, and always have a beautiful energy. There was just one guy that came to me, and I don't quite know how he found me or how this worked out, right? So he wanted a session with me to do some energy healing, and he wanted a bit of a future forecast, right? Anyway, it turned out that he was a miner in America somewhere, like, because my geography of America is not real good, but he had a mining company and he was mining for gold, and he wanted to know if he was going to strike gold, like literally. He's like, well, I'm going out to the whatever they call them, the land out there, and we're starting a new project tomorrow, and I want to know if I'm going to strike gold. And I'm like, I don't know if I'm quite the person for you.
Yeah.
He ended up talking about his relationship, and he ended up bawling his eyes out. So I'm like, oh, okay, well, that was meant to happen.
Yeah, that was so meant to happen.
Yeah, it was. But, he wasn't my normal person. And another male I worked with, this was in Perth one time, did this healing session on him because he said, I've been having a few problems and I just want to know. Yeah. I'm like, I feel something with your heart. Something's going on with your heart. And he's like, yeah, I've had a few heart problems. Then I get this download. This is early days. So I'm like, I was tentatively talking about ET implants and stuff like that. I hadn't done the lecture then where we went full on ET. So I was like, this is first day at this Conscious Living Expo. And there's this guy and I'm looking at him and I'm like, oh, he's got an implant in his heart area and it's causing irregular heart.
Yeah.
Anyway, we talked about the whole round the other stuff and blah, blah, blah. And I knew early on in the session that there's this implant because I'm looking at it and I'm talking myself through the session going, can I really share that with him? Is he going to think I'm a nutcase? What am I going to do with this? Blah, blah, blah. So we get to the end. talked about the heart, and I said, I'll come back to the heart in a minute. So we did the rest of the session, go back to the heart. I said to him, you're aware, obviously you've got some heart thing going on. He said, yeah. He said, I just don't understand where it come from. He said, it just happened one day. And I'm like, I got to tell him. So I said, well, look, here's the thing. I said, you found out some information. You were kind of saying that this is not right to cover this up. This needs to be brought into the light, kind of thing. And basically, this is like a psychic attack. But I said, it's kind of like off planet. He's like, damn, I knew it. I knew it. And I said, oh, not new information? He said, no. He said, this thing happened. He told me a little bit about it. This thing happened. It was a government project. It was connected with the military. It was connected with underground tunnels. And he's like, can't be part of this project. This is really dodgy. And then that thing happened. And he's got the thing in the heart and all of that stuff. And that to me was like a coming out party for me, right? Because I was brave enough to say it. It was exactly what he needed to hear, because he said, I knew it started from then and I couldn't work out what was going on.
Yeah. And if you were new to the ET sort of space, I feel like that was delivered for you too, right?
Yeah, I kind of knew it, but I hadn't spoken publicly, because that was like, I'm going back a few years, and that was like brave.
Yeah.
Brave for me.
Yeah.
So to answer Andrew's question, you're not weird. There are a lot of men around.
Yeah, there are. I always end up, even in my retreats, I end up with at least one man.
Yeah.
At the retreat, always. And I find it such a beautiful balance when the men come in. Yeah. So I've got a question around your private sessions then. With your healing and coaching, what can people expect from the experience, and how can they prepare for the most impactful session with you?
To know what they're coming in for. Even though we may go off on a tangent and come round from a direction that they didn't expect. So, for example, I've done past life hypnotherapy, and people come in and they go, I just want to know about my past life. Well, needle in a haystack, right? So like, you may have had 200 past lives for all we know. So what are we honing in on? We need to be as most specific as possible. So it could be, I want to know what past life gifts and talents I am not owning or acknowledging in this life. Well, then now we've got, it's like putting a location into your GPS and you get directed there. So know what you want to come for. So if you come for something to do with multidimensional hypnotherapy and you want to find your gifts and talents, for example, well, then let's hone in on that. If you come and say, I don't know what's going on with me, I just feel really out of balance, well, then we probably do an energetic session and we work on it. So when I see an energy block in someone's field or in their body, I kind of go into the middle of it and it opens up and it usually shows me what this whole deal is about. So being open to finding whatever it might be, and I do that in an intuitive session as well when people just come in. So it's a range of things. It's better if someone comes in and knows why they're feeling out of sync. Like, I feel stuck in my business or my relationship not's going well, and what is it? But I usually deal mostly, as I say, with spiritual entrepreneurial women, not just women, but mostly. And all of my work has an energetic slant to it, or a spiritual slant, and it's usually about opening up gifts and talents, because that's kind of my forte, rather than a general rather than a general medical intuitive thing. Probably that wouldn't be.
So it sounds like you've, like, over the years, you've alchemized all of your learnings and magic and created this sort of space, and you just get to pull on whatever you need to in a session. Would that be fair to say?
That's true. So and again, going back a while, I used to share a stand at the MBS with a girlfriend who did animal communication. We would buy a big stand, we divide it down the middle, she'd have her bit decorated very differently. You would think it would be obvious, but anyway, this girl, it was late on in the afternoon, my girlfriend had gone off to get cup of tea or something, and this girl booked in. So she sat down with me and she said, I'd like to know about my cat. And I'm like, actually, you need her next door. I don't do that. I can do that. So in my mind, right, because when she was developing her gifts, we worked together to kind of, I would validate what she was picking up, that kind of thing. So I can do animal communication, really haven't done it for years, but at the time I was kind of in it. And I sat there for a moment and I thought, I can give her a reading on her cat, or I can just say, that's not my forte. So I said, look, that's really the girl next door. I said, let me give you your money back, book in with her, she'll be back soon. And she's like, well, I'm here, so tell me what you've got. So I'm like, right, okay. We start doing this session. She's bawling her eyes out and just say, thank you so much.
Yeah.
And then at the end of it, she said, I so needed this message, but she said I was scared to receive it. So I thought I'd try and work through my cat.
I love that.
Yeah.
And she was led to you again. Like this is how the divine works, isn't it? Like when we trust and we allow ourselves to be led, we end up exactly where we're meant to be in every moment.
Yeah.
So working with you, it's important to have intention and be open to the process.
Yeah, be open to the process, because when we're vague, we kind of get vague a little bit.
Totally.
Like if someone comes in and says, well, I don't really know why I'm here, I can hone in on something, but it's a two-way street, because how many people go and have a psychic reading that's amazing and then they do nothing with it?
Yeah.
So really, I would rather work with someone who really wants to do the work.
Yeah,
really
absolutely.
progress, because I know that if they work with me, work on themselves, all of that, they can really go into some amazing places. But if you're going to come get an outstanding reading and then go away and do nothing, then you're going to go, oh yeah, well, the reading was okay.
Yeah.
Whereas if they take it and they go, wow, she's really given me some direction, I'm going to do this, and then step forward. That's what I love. I love to see people get where they want to get,
Yeah. And that's pretty much what we deliver in, or that's what I deliver, guidance and direction. I don't say you have to do this and you have to do that, because we also have free will, and sometimes some of us need to take the long road to get the lesson to be able to apply when we get to the end, right?
Yeah. Oh, I've been on many long roads.
Yeah, me too.
What I most love doing, though, is helping people to trust themselves, really, to really make the right decision from the inside, because they feel it, they know it, because your intuition will never lead you down the wrong path. The reason we've gone on these long roads, all of us, is because we overrode some knowing, or we double guessed, or we doubted, so that's what I'm pretty passionate about, helping you trust yourself, which of course is this course I've got coming up. That's kind of what we're focusing on that one, and understanding how to use your energy, because your energy is your power, and we often don't take our power. It's interesting that a lot of people are even scared of the word power, because they think of it as these toxic mother wound people, where they're stepping into their power, but they're burning everything down, and it's not like that. When you've lost your friend.
I know. I was just like, I had a giggle because the screen froze on. Did you see the smile she had on her face when the screen froze?
I don't know what just happened then. Can you hear me?
It's all good. Yes, thank you. Beautiful. Welcome back.
Yeah. Anyway.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah. Beautiful. Jen, have you got any last questions?
Sorry, dedicated to helping mainly women, but we do as well find their true selves. Can you share a message of encouragement or inspiration for our target audience?
Well, yes. I think that we don't realize how freaking amazing we all are. And, you know, I really remember that kind of like metaphor that the Buddhists talk about, being a diamond in the middle with all these layers and layers of crap, quite honestly, layered around us. And so, you know, our awakening is really tearing down each of these layers. It is the proverbial layers of the onion, right? Inside. So when I work with someone, I really see that inside beautiful shining diamond. I see the gifts, I see your potential. What I learned long ago is actually not to give you your big vision, because people go into fear and they shut down. And I think that's the value of unfolding gently. When I work with people, I see their highest potential. I see it very easily. And because of that, I just want to say, just keep doing the work, trust yourself, you know, explore a few different things, but always come back to what feels right for you, you know, all of that. But I think what we miss in the spiritual arena is that we don't do our shadow work or our inner child work, whatever you want to call that. And that is why we can't step into our magnificence.
Yes.
And you've got to do it, and it's not comfortable.
No.
But there are ways to get through it. I mean, I had a 3-day cry just recently because another level opened up. And it's like, I'm fortunate that, you know, I don't have to go out and hold down a day job. This is everything, you know, I do it on my computer. And as spirit orchestrated it, of course, I didn't have any clients for those 3 days. It always works, you know.
It's
alignment. And so, you know, this thing happened in my life, you know, and I'm falling apart and bawling my eyes out and going with that process, not trying to suppress it or block it or put on a brave face. It's like, you got to break down things in order to rebuild better.
Yes.
So my words of encouragement are: trust the process, trust yourself, realize that you are on a path, the classic hero's journey, right? I did a class recently about the hero's journey, and I think it's for sale on my website, actually.
Beautiful.
If you were to listen to that, you would see the steps that you're going through, the path of the hero's journey, and you would recognize that falling apart for 3 days or a week is okay. It's part of the healing. And what you're doing is releasing some of the pressure, some of the emotion that's been trapped inside of you, maybe for years. You're releasing that, and it's like a heavy boulder holding you down. And when you heal and release that, oh my God, you can breathe and you feel lighter, and you go, you know, I'm going to be okay. This is okay. And then you keep moving forward. Don't stop at the first obstacle.
No, and don't get stuck in, like, because people sometimes have the tendency to get stuck in that emotion, right?
Yeah. So I actually like 3 days for a dark night of the soul.
Yeah, I like the sound of 3 days, actually. I went through one the end of last year that was way longer than 3 days, but it was probably I would say one of my most intense personally, on a personal level. It was at all different levels, but I came out the other end with lots of learnings and lots of shedding, and sometimes we just need massive catalysts for change, and sometimes we need smaller ones. So.
And you know, when we need a massive catalyst for change, it's usually because we've ignored the signs before.
Absolutely.
So, you know, the universe will give you a gentle slap. Come on, do this.
Yeah.
And when you ignore it long enough, it'll come along with a 2x4 and whack you hard.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And I think, again, just going back to trusting the process, and everything is happening for you and not to you. And I think, if you understand, when you actually understand that and it lands, because we can resist that thought as well, but when we understand that, it's like we're welcoming in that transformation that comes.
Yeah. And realize you don't have to be alone in this process, because there are people like you and I that they could reach out to and say, look, I'm in this dark space. I don't know where I am, and I need to.
we have a special guest.
Yeah, he's in all my videos, actually. yeah, you don't have to be alone in this. If you're in a place and you don't know what the heck's going on, if you need a bit of clarity, probably reach out to you or I. We're the type of people that can support you through that next step. Don't stay in the dark feeling alone.
No.
Just reach out and say, I need a bit of processing around what's going on here.
Yeah, exactly. Beautiful. Do you have anything else that you'd like to share with our viewers and listeners?
Oh, well, they're welcome to join my Facebook group, of course. I see that you've put all the links there.
I have.
I do a Tea and Truth, I call it right now. I used to call it Cuppa and Chat, but now I call it Tea and Truth. I do that on a Tuesday at 12 at noon, and we just chat. And, if people send in questions, there's something they want me to talk about, I'll talk about it there. At the moment, I've got some awakening and thank you, Andrew. I have awakening and expansion classes, and we talk about specific topics, different each time. This week we've got entities, possessions, and thought forms, and then in 2 weeks' time I'm talking about the starseed trap. I do it every other week. As you already know, I've got my course starting up next week called Power and Potential. I could probably give you a link for that. Shall I give you a link for that right now?
Yeah. Actually, you should be able to just paste that. Let's see if you can paste that into the group. Jen, I think I might need you once that's in to paste, because this hasn't gone out. I don't think this has gone into your groups. So you might need to copy and paste.
Yeah.
What I put to your groups, get that, and what Karen
pops
in there.
I'm not quite sure where this will come, so we'll see.
Yeah.
There you go.
Oh, beautiful.
Just come privately. I'm not sure if it's gone out.
Yeah, that's okay. Anyway. Can you try and do that again too, Jen?
Yeah.
Beautiful.
There it is.
Yeah, perfect. Wonderful.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, you're so very welcome. It was so lovely having you share your wisdom and experiences with us today. Your journey and your expertise are really, honestly, truly inspiring.
Thank you.
So on that note, to all of our listeners, we hope this episode has provided you with valuable insights and tools to support your spiritual awakening and self-discovery.
And remember, you have the power within you. You have the power within you to embrace your authentic self and uncover your unique gifts. As Karen says, share them with the world and make a difference. So stay tuned for more enlightening episodes of Elevate Your Spiritual Awakening. Until next time, keep exploring, healing, and transforming your spiritual journey.
Beautiful. Take care. See you soon. Big love.
Bye.
Stay curious.